Yo, 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 what is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome back to the third intermission, y'all. Avery here in Troy, running another two-man show this evening in the host chair for boss man Dave. We're back at the first recording of 2025. Got some audio to drop for you soon. We got some stuff we taped before the before New Year turns, so we'll drop that very shortly here. Hope you had a safe Christmas. Fun New Year. Welcome back to the Third Intermission podcast. As we get going on 2025, a lot's coming your way with the podcast. We got lots of coming up soon in January, February. You're going to want to lock in to the show because we got some fun stuff coming your way. Troy, welcome on, sir. How you doing? Happy New Year to you, Troy.
Happy New Year to you too, Avery. I am doing well, thank you. I am enjoying a well-deserved day off, considering I work every day in December and like late November, like every day except for like three. The day off can't have to come all the way into next year, but I'm sucking myself out. But yeah, I'm just enjoying my day off, getting the kids ready for school, and getting ready to talk some hockey.
Nice. There you go. There you go. And of course, a lot happened in the hockey world over the holiday break. Of course, the World Junior Hockey Championships. At the time of this recording, Finland is leading the Americans 3-2 in the gold medal game as Americans try to push to get the equalizer in a tournament in which, for the second year in a row, the Canadians, Team Canada, and no, 3-2 is now 3-3. The U.S. has tied it. The U.S. has tied it late, so it'll be old ones goes up, but you heard live on this show the Americans tying things up. But my point being, Canada is not a part of the gold medal game. They're not playing for a bronze. They didn't play for a bronze. They played once again in back-to-back years for no medal. A team coached by Dave Cameron was in turmoil almost from the jump. This team lost to Latvia in game two. They lost to Czechia in the quarterfinal game. And penalties were a major issue for this team. We know this team had a lot of guys who should have been here that were not here on this team. And I mean, guys like Michael Misa was a guy who didn't make this team. A guy who didn't play, Zane Parekh wasn't here. Malcolm Spence wasn't on this roster. So many guys who could have helped this team on Team Canada weren't here. And Dave Cameron, again, made some strange coaching decisions. This team didn't practice after losses. This team was off the ice for quite a bit. And it came away to me, Troy, Dave Cameron basically tried to say, these kids are undisciplined. I can't do anything. It was Ned Flanders' parents where, he's tried nothing and he has no more ideas. That was Dave Cameron at the World Junior Tournament. And my buddy Stephen Ellis, my former boss of Hockey News, who's now at Daily Faceoff, Stephen got a note from a scout telling him that he wouldn't let Dave Cameron run to McDonald's at 3 a.m. with nobody around. One indictment on his coaching and one indictment on Hockey Canada for leaving so many talented guys at home and not adjusting to turmoil when the rest of the world no longer fears Canada hockey, Troy.
Dave Cameron failed an open book test. That's basically what it is. Because, I mean, what? What do you mean? No practices, no nothing, no video sessions, no nothing? Like, did you even address any of the penalty situation where, like, you're being paraded to the penalty box, like you're being put on display out in the open, like, and how the roster was chosen. I mean, I totally understand why the two kids who didn't get chosen, like I think one of them was like the highest scorer in whatever league he plays in. Both of them were showing like mad shade on Instagram, and it's like I totally get it because they could have used you, and it almost reminds me of like that Olympic year with the men, and we lost, and people are like, "Why was Gretzky on the bench? Why wasn't he picked?" He had five a little bit, and I mean, like we're obviously we're going to see and hear the think pieces about Canada bottoming out for the second year in a row to the same opponent and missing out on the medal. But this year is an exceptional year where you have talent every which way you look, and you leave them at home. Like, granted, Tizagima, he was hurt, but it's like, you don't want, like, I don't want to make this a race thing or nothing, but, like, you didn't want no melanin on your team? Like, you don't think any one of those brothers could help you make a difference? The one person who does not deserve any blame at all is Carter George. This dude is the only reason Canada hung around as long as they did. Like, every goal that went in against him, I think, except for one, was a power play goal. Like, he's amazing 5-on-5, but like that 4-on-4 needed some work. There was no adjustments. I say this every year watching the World Juniors, and it feels like you're watching a really bad league. And watching them bow out the way they did, it was like watching, a Sheldon Keefe coach game in the playoffs where just like you're getting your ass beat and you have no answer. It's like you're waving the white flag without waving the white flag. And you have nobody to blame but management. I mean, you can kind of blame the kids for being undisciplined, but I mean, like, that's on the adults to teach them to be disciplined. And they didn't get that in the tournament. So they got where they are because management didn't know what the hell they were doing. It's like when they roll the bingo ball to get the numbers out. That's what they did to pick names instead of actually going through what you need to compete and get out of the round robin on top with these other teams. They didn't do that.
No, and this is a team. He mentioned the guys who you mentioned the names who stepped up. Carter George again. Carter George did all he could, and again, this team left off Andrew Cristal. This team left off Michael Misa, who I mentioned off the top. This team left off strong talent in which, if you want to win, Andrew Cristal is averaging well over a point a game in the dub. Like, you want to win, you want to medal, and I've heard this before. And other pods I've been on so far, Troy, they tried to build a team and not, again, it was a team and not just bringing the best players in the country, which that's not how you win a short tournament like this. You can't build a team to try and play against the Prince Albert Raiders in a 2-week span. Like, you're not playing against these kind of teams. You're playing against nations that are bringing their best players. As what Finland did. It's what the Americans did. It's what Sweden, Latvia, Germany did. They brought their best and giving their best shots to the Canadians. And that is what hurt Canada again. And we're to Adam Dzeko, who scored the game for Czechia, knocked Canada out. He plays for Edmonton Oil Kings, Adam Dzeko. I see him a lot. So this is a team in which Canada hockey, and yes, Canada a couple of years ago did win gold, but Hockey Canada has to address the fact that the rest of the world is no longer afraid of Hockey Canada. And look at the way the Americans build their team. You've got multiple guys who play at BU, who play at the other northeastern colleges, who are units. You got the national development program where those kids play in the USHL as a team and play a proper schedule as a franchise in USHL. So those guys stay together. You've got full-time coaches or coaches who are used to coaching those guys. You got guys who understand it, like David Carl. And David Carl is a great coach at U of Denver and has worked to build up the U.S. program before. So I'm not saying Canada can, say, for example, put a team Canada into the OHL because of Dale Hunter's going to be like, hell no. You put all the best players into one team in the OHL and leave none for London. But the Hunters are going to say no to that. And so will the powerhouse teams in the Q and the powerhouse teams in the W. So it's not possible here in the CHL, but something has to change in terms of how we structure a team for these kind of tournaments, Troy, going forward.
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, they left some incredible names off the roster, and it's like who was allowed to make these decisions. So like they just gotta find new voices that you know have a better idea of what they're doing than some of these older. Um, what's the word I want to use? Useless.
Yeah, like the old guard, really.
Yeah, the old guard. Like get some new voices in the room. Like I'm sure there's plenty of qualified people who aren't over the age of 55 that can pick a better roster because this was tremendously terrible. This was like being when you're playing 2K and you're playing like one of those tournaments and like your whole roster is like a 67, but they play like they're 43. You know, you've got like no, you've got no jump, no nothing. That's what that felt like.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and it's too bad because these kids deserve a lot better than what happened here. So we'll see what happens. And then the next year's tournament, 2026, is in Minnesota before coming back to Canada for 2027. That tournament will be held in Alberta, but we don't know what cities yet in Alberta for 2027. But this is you. Canada's got a year to figure it out, get new blood, and figure out who wants to take reins of the program. I saw a few suggestions, like I mentioned, like the U.S. development program. Some people are suggesting that it shouldn't just be, getting a random CHL coach beforehand and appointing him as that coach. I saw people saying that the World Junior head coach should be a full-time position and not just a 2-week thing, like how it is in soccer for, say, a national team program in soccer, and how it was many, many, many years ago for Team Canada in hockey before the NHL could play in the Olympic Games. But I don't know, like it's the way we do it now, it's breaking to an extent. But what I don't want to see, Troy, is another summit that's like a 3-day thing in the Hall of Fame in which we break it down too much and we basically try and say, oh, what was us? What was Canada? Because no other country will have sympathy for us if we do that again.
Oh no, absolutely not. If you're planning to do a summit of any kind to address the issue, don't. All you gotta do, start from the top, pink slip every motherfucker until that shit is cleared the fuck out. All you gotta do. You don't need to get all the the most powerful brains you can think of in hockey to come together to figure out what the problem is because all the talking heads and all the sports networks have already done that. It's just going to start from the top and work its way down. Trickle down effect sucks, but if that's how you need to improve your product, then that's what you need to do to improve your product.
Mm-hmm. No. Clean house, make some changes. I certainly do agree with that. And going from the World Juniors to bring things back to the professional level, and as we mentioned last time, the Corey Century NHL teams have dropped. The Corey Century teams have dropped, and the Maple Leafs Corey Century teams have dropped. Of course, by the end of the month, we'll have by February, we'll know all of the different teams for the NHL's Corey Century celebrations. And we'll go through Toronto. We'll go through the rest who've been unveiled so far. But for Toronto, Troy, the Maple Leafs, their first team is made up of Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews, Matt Sundin, Thomas Caberlet, Morgan Riley, and Ed Belfour in net. And the second team is Phil Kessel, William Nylander, John Tavares, Curtis Joseph, Dion Phaneuf, and Brian McCabe. So what do you think? What are your thoughts on those two teams here for the Leafs Corey Century squads?
I don't hate it. I don't really see any question marks anywhere. Quarter century team. Yeah, no, I honestly I don't really have any real issues with the players chosen. I mean, there are other Leafs names you could have picked for sure. But I'm pretty satisfied with this. I mean, even though Matt Sundin's tenure here ended kind of awkwardly, I mean, like he was still a beast once he came here. I remember when he scored his 500th goal. I believe it was against Calgary.
Yes,
Right
sir.
before the game started, I forget who I was sitting there watching with. I'm like, I just had a feeling. I'm like, he's gonna get 500 tonight. He's gonna get a hat trick, and it's gonna be the game winner. Little did I know it was gonna finish in overtime like that when he let go that absolute bomb from just inside the blue line. Like as soon as Kipper saw him wind up, he's basically already leaving the net. He's like, "Fuck this shit! I already know it's kind of deal." Um, Thomas Caverly, yeah, for a guy who would never shoot, for sure. I would pick him on a first teamer. Ed Belfour, like I've said before, until like this year and last year, we've never really had solid goaltending since Ed Belfour left. So I mean, you can't have a quarter century leaf team and not have him on it. Same thing with Curtis Joseph. Even though Joseph is right up there on the career losses list too, he did some pretty solid things for the Leafs. Um, McCabe, honestly, I mean, like he was a good defenseman. The only thing I ever really remember him for being a Leaf is him getting shooken out by a carpet, like a carpet by Zdeno Chara. Um, Phaneuf Phaneuf is a good pick. I mean, we've never really had a physical defenseman quite like him until Benoit came around. So once Benoit actually gets like his solid footing in, I think we got a Phaneuf type player on our hands. And Phil Kessel, man. Like you can't really talk shit about this dude. Like he's got rings. He's so quiet. He's so humble. He doesn't bother nobody. He just goes out there and scores goals. That's what he does. That's what he gets paid to do. Leave him in his hot dog. Um, I don't have a problem with Tavares and Nylander being on this list. I mean, I would be upset if Nylander wasn't on this list for sure. And yeah, Tavares for sure. I mean, like hometown boy comes to play for his hometown team. Things haven't necessarily gone the way he's hoped, but I mean, it hasn't gone the way Toronto's hoped for the last however many years, right? So I mean, he's not new to this. Neither are the fans.
Yeah, like these are, in large part, they really did get this right. I have not many reasons to question any of this. I mean, maybe someone might, I could hear someone maybe saying, oh, what about a Gary Roberts? But no, I think this is probably so far the best list I've seen yet for quarter century team easily yet. I'm not going to scream out someone who has missed too much off of this list here. And I'll quickly go through other teams that have been unveiled so far. Of course, Arizona, they got theirs, the Arizona Coyotes, who are still in that cryogenically frozen status right now. Their first team was Shane Doan, Clayton Keller, Radim Verbata, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, a little least plug there for you. Keith Yandel, Mike Smith, first team, second team, Martin Hanzal, Jeremy Roenick, Nick Schmaltz, Zdeněk Mahalik, Teppo Numanen, and Ilya Brizgalov. I'm surprised about the Zdeněk Mahalik one and Nick Schmaltz. Like, really? Those guys on your first entry teams? Okay.
Slim Pickens, man. It's Arizona. They've been notoriously bad for years. So I mean, after Shane Doan, after Shane Doan, Keith Yandel, and Mike Smith, like you're just drawing names out of a hat at this point. Um, I'm curious to know if Ronick is going to end up, how many lists he's going to end up on. Um, Ilya Brizgalov. I mean, damn, like he was good. He was a very entertaining. Oh, saved by the stove. I dropped my phone.
Oh, geez.
I actually dropped it. Yeah, Brizgalov is a good choice. As for the other guys, I mean, sure. Like I said, it's like drawing names out of a hat. Like nobody really stood out as bright as Doan, Yandel, and Smith did.
that's interesting. Yeah, and then of course, St. Louis has there as well. St. Louis, I'm the one where I didn't disagree too much. St. Louis first team: Vladimir Tarasenko, Keith Kachuk, Alex Steen, Alex Petrangelo, Chris Pronger, Jordan Binnington, and the second team was David Backus, Ryan O'Reilly, Dave Perron, Brian Elliott, Colt Parenko, and Al McInnes on the second team for St. Louis.
I mean, I understand why Bennington's there, but otherwise, I probably would have went down the list of St. Louis goalies to find somebody other than Bennington. I mean, no disrespect to Mr. Elliott because we've given him his flowers multiple times on this podcast, but we're not including you in the disrespect here. But yes, man, you could pick almost anybody other than Bennington, but because he's got a cup ring, I'm sure that's the only reason he's on this list.
Yeah,
Chris Pronger, I mean Pronger and McKinnon. Yes, those were two icons for this franchise. So I mean, there's no way you can have a list like this and leave those two on. Absolutely not. Fact is, he's had some questionable moments in his career, but I mean, he's been a pest for St. Louis, and he was a key cog in them winning their cup. Same thing with Petrangelo. Don't have a problem with Steen or Tarasenko. Not really. Yeah, I think the only person that really kind of confuses me is Binnington.
yeah, I get it. He won the cup, and he's been their guy ever since. He's been that guy since he won the cup. So, and for St. Louis, I mean, they haven't really had. I mean, they've had guys in it, but they haven't really had many guys who've taken them that deep in the 2000s. I mean, yeah, you got Brian Elliott. You've had stopgap guys over the years. You had Roman Turek. You've had guys who were good, but you haven't really had any guys who were. I mean, you had Martin Brodeur later in his career, but that doesn't really count. But you had a bunch of guys in St. Louis, but not really guys I would really consider to be quarter century guys the way Bennington is. I mean, I'm not a big Bennington fan, but I get it. I get why he makes a quarter century team. I do in that sense. And then of course Chicago. Chicago's all-time team or quarter century team. First team they had Patrick Kane, Patrick Sharp, Jonathan Taves, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook, Corey Crawford, and then their second team. Again, no surprise. Second team: Marian Hossa, Brendan Saad, Brian Campbell, Nicole Jomerson, Jocelyn Tebow, and Alex DeBrincat make up their second team. So that's a one, Troy, where no surprise, the bulk of their team was made up of the guys who won the cups for them in the 2010s. And then they had, a splash of a current guy in the Brincat. And then Jocelyn Tebow gets in really because, hey, I guess we need some guy who wasn't from the before the cup era, I guess, who was kind of okay.
Yeah, they definitely needed to put somebody in there for another goalie for sure. But yeah, I don't have a problem with this list at all. I mean, this is a very talented team, mind you. The things attached to these players based on what happened at that time, which we discussed before, but we will not mention again. Yeah, this is a pretty solid roster. I mean, I if Marian Hossa was left off this, I'd be upset. But other than that, I'm okay with this.
No, it's interesting. And then, of course, Columbus had theirs made up of Cam Atkinson, Rick Nash, Artemi Panarin, Seth Jones, Zach Kerensky, Sergei Bobrovsky, and that was the first team. And then the second team was Nick Foligno, the late Johnny Gaudreau, Boone Jenner, David Savard, Fedor Tootin, and Steve Mason.
I would have probably put Gaudreau on first team, not the second team. Because I would put him, yeah, I would put him talent-wise better than Cam Atkinson for sure by leap out. Um, other than Nick Foligno, sure. Again, this is kind of one of those another one of those teams where it's like you only get a handful of guys, that actually stood out and did something while they were there. Um, Rick Nash is a gimme. Bobrovsky, Rorensky. Yeah, same thing with Steve Mason. But yeah, I like this team. The only thing I would do is I would switch Goodrow for Cam Atkinson.
It's fair. That is fair. And again, it's a team that only came in 2000, so you don't have 40 or 50 years of history to look back on. But again, Rick Nash, of course you had to put him on for his team. That was your franchise guy. And Steve Mason, he had a few good years. He did win the Calder as a Jackets netminder. He was like their first real franchise netminder in Columbus, so that makes sense. So again, that one in large part, it does make sense. And then two more here to go before we wrap up the names that have been unveiled so far. Florida, their all time team, first team, sorry, the core century team, Alex Barkov, Jonathan Huberdeau, Matthew Kachuk, Aaron Ekblad, Gustav Forling, and Roberto Luongo make up the first team, and then their second team is Pavel Bure, Ole Jokinen, Sam Reinhart, Jay Bomeister, Robert Schwela, and Sergei Bobrovsky on second team.
Robert Zavela is a name I haven't heard in forever. But yeah, I have no issues with this list either. Um, so far, Bobrovsky's the only one who appeared on two lists. So I mean, leaving your mark on two franchises, right? And I mean, when you see Florida Panthers, like I I know Bure and Barkov did their thing. Barkov's still doing his thing, but I mean, like, there's no Florida without Roberto Luongo. I mean, like, I think he was like for those many many years that they were like really bad. Like without Roberto Luongo, I bet you that franchise falls or moves something. Like there's no way Florida sticks around without Luongo because he kept it interesting. And he was really good at what he did. So, I mean, like, yes, he faced the most shots every year for like 7 consecutive years, but like he made all of them look good, and that's the reason why Team Canada kept picking him as one of their goals because they're like, this dude is stopping everything.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, Roberto Luongo was helping to keep the Panthers in level of relevance with Bure and Willie Oliokonen. So yeah, so Roberto Luongo deserves to be on that first team. And I seeing Bure on the second team. I understand it, but man, if there was one extra spot, if there was one other spot for a fourth forward, I would have put Bure on there because Pavel Bure as offensive force. As offensive force, Troy, in Florida, 2000, 2001, Bure had 59 goals for Florida. No other player on the roster that year had 20. No other player in Florida in that year had 20 goals, Troy. It goes, I believe the split, I'll pull it up here in a second, but it is a comical split in 2001 when it comes to the goal share of what Pelbury had in Florida. He had 29.5% of the goals for the Panthers that year in 2000, 2001. It is still the highest, it is the most lopsided split in the modern era for a player when it comes to what he did on one team. 59 goals, 29% of the goals, and Florida that year still missed the playoffs. If I was Pablo Burry, I'd be so mad considering I did that much work and we still were trash.
Yeah, it's the same for sure that some of these franchises they can have like top notch players and just the rest of the team is just absolute garbage. Like it's got to be a rough feeling, man. I mean that's probably what Bedard's going through in Chicago right now, where it's like, damn, this is what you gave me to work with.
And yeah, I got it. Yeah, I got it here. Yeah, Powell Burry, 2001. 59 goals. The second most goals in that team that year. Victor Kozlov had 14.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Powell Burry, 59 goals, 2001. Second most, Victor Kozlov at 14.
That's crazy.
That is, no one else had 20. No one else had 20, Troy.
Yeah, that's how you know you're bad when nobody else comes close to whatever whatever your leading scorer has. Like, it reminds me of when Pittsburgh, just shortly after Pittsburgh got Crosby, there
Yeah.
was a time. Actually, I think he's done this multiple times. And then Lemieux has done this too, where they've racked up so many points by themselves that they not only clear the rest of their own team, but they clear everybody else in the league. They've been able to, I mean, not that they're trying to, but they've gotten hurt, missed a significant amount of time, come back and still be the scoring leader.
They've had just ridiculous stats like that. Like Crosby, yeah, Crosby and Crosby in 0506. He is rookie yet. It was a silly year where Crosby had 102 points, and second most was Sergei Gonchar, 58 points in 0506.
58 points. Oh my god, that's like, oh man. So he had as many points as like a team itself would. Jesus. That's
like
such a huge discrepancy.
like that first year, that first year of Crosby and the Penguins, it's a very funny, it's a very funny cast of characters. Looking at the roster for who was there, like you had the legends. You had Crosby, Lemieux, Gonchar, Recchi, John Leclerc. Then you had the Ryan Whitneys, the Colby Armstrongs. Then you just the Dick Tarnstrom, the Brooks Orpik. Do you go down? You have the guys you forgot were even on the Penguins back then. You had like Corey Cross was a Penguin back then. Yanni Urita, like you had just random dudes on that roster in '05. Lyle Oldline, just random dudes on that roster in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you go through that roster now, you're looking and it's like, oh, he was on this roster. Like, it's just so many Trivial Pursuit answers.
It is it's a good thing they figured it out because that is a team that you had to figure it out with Sidney Crosby. Like you had to figure it out with Crosby because the year before, I know the '04 was lockout year, but '03 '04 was when they drafted Marc-Andre Fleury and they had him playing for his first taste of NHL action. And he had pretty much no help that year. That was a year where Lemieux missed almost the entire year because of his back injuries. He played almost only 10 games that year. So that year they were carried by Dick Tarnstrom, Alex Morozov, Ryan Malone, Tom Konstopoulos, Drake Berehowski. Like the Penguins were in a bad spot before Crosby came along the franchise.
Oh yeah. Like, imagine if Yager stayed and got a chance to play with Crosby. That would have been something special.
That would have been that.
And he'd be higher up on the NHL all-time list.
If he stayed, I think if there's a case to be made where if Jaromir Jagr stays in certain teams, if Jagr doesn't go over to the KHL, he would have broken Gretzky's goal record by now. Like it would have been Ovechkin chasing Jagr, not Gretzky for the number one spot in the goals.
100%. 100%. Yeah, like if he stays in Pittsburgh, doesn't go anywhere else, he breaks that record easily.
Yeah, and even if he stays in New York, like if he stays in his league, he's right. But not if you're Mario Lemieux, like how are you just out of fear for your job, like out of fear for not being dealt, like how are you coming to the rink and not being just, and how are you coming to the rink and just being a bad team, knowing that your captain is also your owner in the early 2000 Penguins teams?
It's almost like um, being on the same team as your dad. It's like, what do you do?
like,
how do how do you address things properly? Like, do you still call him dad?
like
Or do you call him by his first name?
I'm not dogging a single shift in my. There's no one dogging a single shift, Troy. If I know my winger is also team owner, or my center is also my team owner, like no,
Oh no, I gotta make sure he sees why he's paying me that money.
like that,
Yeah.
like
No days off, no nothing.
like one day I want one day in oral history of what it was like to play for an owner or have your owner as your lineman. I want an oral history one day of what that was like to play for the guy who's signing your checks or play with him.
That would be amazing.
Oh my goodness! And going from the court, and we got one more. Anaheim. We pulled the Anaheim course entry team here. I don't know why it's not on NHL.com's website, but yeah, the rest of the month you'll see the course entry list keep coming until February. It's gonna spark way more debate when all of these teams drop fully. And yeah, Anaheim here, the last team to be unveiled so far. Anaheim Ducks first team: Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry, Timo Solani, Cam Fowler, Scott Niedermayer, J.S. Jaguar in net. And the second team is Paul Kariya, Bobby Ryan, Jakob Silverberg, Francois Boschman, Chris Pronger, and John Gibson.
Okay, so Pronger is also the second person to make two teams. Um,
I mean, it's well deserved at this rate.
Yo! Look who sneaks in through the back door. Boss man himself, Mr. Dave Barnett.
I've been here for 10 minutes and I've been trying to keep my mouth shut, but yeah, I've been here.
This guy just sitting here in the quiet like some weirdo, eh?
Stop this right now. Anyways, no, like Chris Pronger definitely does deserve to be on this list. Second team, I'm kind of a little questionable considering like his defensive prowess alone kind of literally propelled Anaheim to a Stanley Cup back in like 2007. Mind you, Ottawa was a shit team back then. Let's be honest here. I'm sorry for all you Sens fans out there, but like Pronger was one of the main reasons why y'all caught the L in 5 games against the Ducks, right? Mind you, John Sebastian Jaguar was kind of standing on his head. Timo Solani was like one of the best scorers, one of the most prolific scorers throughout the entire playoff run. Scott Niedermayer. Well, what else do we need to say about him? Really and truly. So, personally speaking, like this is a great selection of players. I would not put Paul Kariya on the second team. I would essentially put him on the first team and switch him out with Ryan Getzlaf, only because of the fact that it's like you don't mess with Paul. I'm sorry, you don't mess with Paul. Like, tell me exactly where I'm wrong here.
I would switch Kariya with Perry, but I agree Kariya doesn't belong on the second team. Off the floor, on the board.
Like, Paul Kariya, like that's an iconic moment in itself. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Perry for Kariya and Fowler for Pronger, but otherwise I'm happy with the selection of players.
You know, the Kariya thing with Getzlaf, it's tough because if this was a thing which you're looking at the entire franchise, then yeah, certainly Kariya should be on the first team 110%. He should be. But since it's a quarter-century thing, I kind of get it because the best work of Kariya came in the 90s and it wasn't as much in the 2000s. Getzlaf was there for way longer, and I'm in the 2000s, 2010s, early 2020s. So I get that why Getzlaf is there. But if it was we're looking at the past 30 years, then certainly, yeah, Korea should be on the first team 110%. So I do get why it gets up over Korea when it comes to the past 25 years of the franchise. That, to me, I understand that entirely.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
What makes me sad? What makes me sad is the fact that, like, you know, when Anaheim won their cup, they won without Korea. He was in Nashville, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, that kind of feels like a missed opportunity for him. So, I mean, like, it was what it was at this point, but, like, 2-2 is like, Korea definitely did deserve a ring. Unfortunately, it didn't happen it didn't happen. And, you know, it's kind of one of those intangible things that Anaheim fans are, like, obviously looking at, like, okay, yeah, we definitely deserved our cup in 07, but, like, it would have been nice if say Paul had actually gotten it while he was with us. You know what I mean?
No, totally. And Paul Korea in general, like his career. Go ahead, Troy.
Do you think Paul and Timo end up on Colorado's list?
More than likely, because it's like, you know what, like if either of them say, I mean, given the criteria of what the NHL is probably running with, I mean, could Sakic and Forsberg be also on that list? Could Patrick Waugh be on that list too? You never know, right? So,
Sakic for sure. Like Sakic for sure is gonna be on that.
Yeah, Milan Hajduk. That's another name as well that may have to be heavily considered. We did mention Peter Forsberg, correct?
Yes, just yeah.
Yeah. So, and then of course you got Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Alexander Georgiev as well, probably on that list. So there are so many names that Colorado's going to have to deal with, but it's like, I really don't know if Timo and Paul would actually be on that list.
Solani for Colorado, nah, he only played 1 year there. He was never. Those guys, remember, they were the first tandem. They were the first guys to go as a tandem somewhere else. But Colorado, they were not. Neither guys in Colorado, like I think, they're going to be beaten out by easily guys like the Haydukes, the Adam Foots, the.
I forgot about Adam too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see a place for them in Colorado, but there's so much talent in that franchise over the past 25 years. Like I could see, there's no way, in my mind at least, Solani or Korea make the Colorado squad. But either way, I'm excited to see what the rest of these teams look like because they're going to be, I guarantee you, some of these teams I've seen, some of these teams to be unveiled, there's going to be controversy. We've gotten the first 6 or 7 teams here have been pretty fair. Some teams coming up are going to cause some bacchanal soon.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you said, it's going to be very interesting going forward here, to tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of a little creeped out about Seattle having excuse my language. Seattle having a quarter century team. And
that's weird. I think it's odd.
It's extremely weird. How you've only been in the league for like not even a year? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, since 2021, you're going to be a part of the. It should be. I think the cutoff should have been at 2017-18 where Vegas is. That should have been where you end for a quarter century team. At least Vegas has now had.
At least.
Vegas had enough time to establish. You could be proper legend. Like they've been here 7 years is good enough for that list. A team's around since 2021 and has only had 1 playoff series win to their name. Like, and they haven't been around long enough to have that much history as a franchise. Like, no.
Like that's the messed up part about all of this. It's like you're giving prestige and privilege to certain teams that have barely had a cup of coffee in the NHL. So it's like, how is it that like say teams like Seattle, Vegas, and quote unquote Utah, how are they getting quarter century teams, even though like some of them have either inherited like say other opportunity, like players from other opportunities, right, or from around the league, and it's like you guys have barely been around. You guys have barely been a team for like 5 years. That's what sense to me.
It's weird. The Vegas one makes sense. You've been a couple cup finals, you won, but yeah, Seattle, and then Seattle.
Even with Vegas, Vegas is iffy.
Yeah, like there's some like I could see why Vegas can make it, but the Seattle one and then the Utah Arizona thing, I think that's just another one where it's like I don't like that is just very strange to me because there's so many guys who are you're cloning rosters to an extent where you got Seattle and Utah involved in this. Like that is just it's a weird one to me. But and again, I mentioned Detroit off the top here again. Like you mentioned last week, how the order is very random to an extent, or the order isn't clear because I said it should have been by date of entry into the league and not just it will look to be arbitrary because we're going now. We've got unveiled St. Louis, Columbus, Toronto. Like, what's the order? Like, I don't understand it.
It's messed up to tell you the truth because it's like you like your Stanley Cup champion obviously should go dead last in that situation for one. Two, your original 6 teams should have precedent over this, and then basically anyone outside of that, right? Like say go by like year of entry, right? With your cutoff being Vegas. That way, like you don't have a Seattle, you don't have a Utah in this situation. But again, I digress in this situation because we all know Gary Bettman doesn't. All he wants to do is just basically save as much money as he can for the Just for Men Hair Club, and basically just not make any common sense when it comes to hockey at this point.
Oh, this guy.
But ideally speaking, it's like it's like it's messed because it's like you have so many great teams. Edmonton, or no, sorry, New Year's Eve should have at least either been Toronto or Montreal, hands down. Or like when they first started unveiling it was like December 31st. Yeah, like New Year's Eve should have easily have been Montreal, and then January 1st, Toronto. January 2nd, I don't know. I think it's Boston, and then Detroit or Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would have been fine. You want to do like your original 6, that would have been fine. But
exactly, like, and then you do your expansion 6, and then it's like you have all your other teams. Like, I mean, at this rate, like you might as well say throw in the California Golden Seals or the Cleveland Barons or the Rockies at this point.
Yeah, it is. It is such a strange order, and going from the list which was unveiled to the Winter Classic itself, St. Louis dominated Chicago on a game played not on New Year's Day, on New Year's Eve to avoid 3 bowl games in the college football playoffs that were happening on New Year's Day at Wrigley Field. And it, to me, guys, Dave and Troy, we've jumped the shark in a way in the sense that, of course, TV ratings were down this year by a bit. It wasn't good. At some point, you had ratings under 1 million people watching on US TV, which is not good at all. And I said on Twitter, people are bored of the same teams playing. There's Chicago fatigue. Neither one of these teams are very good this year. And the matchups are not, the entertainment isn't that good. Chance the Rapper performed in front of a crowd that had no rhythm. Potato salad, raisins crowd. Couldn't stay on beat. Didn't know the man's music.
That's out of pocket. That's my level of out of pocket, man. About potato salad with the raisins crowd. That's terrible. That's only terrible. I'm sorry.
He was performing in silence. Like, it was all the way messed up. But I just thought, man, there's a way to fix this. Give Winter Classic its own day again. Don't throw the games or how many other games on Winter Classic Day. and give it its own platform to be the spectacle in which it has no in-league competition like you used to years ago. What are you doing here? You are making me care less about this thing, which the World Classic to me it was always a fun thing to sit down and enjoy on New Year's Day. For me, this year, guys, it felt very meh.
Kind of felt like really overcooked and dry turkey, pretty much, right?
No, no lie on that. How do you feel about that one, Troy?
Yeah, the Winter Classic, man. Like I said before the show, I it's lost all meaning, like the luster, like the allure behind it. Um, it's something that unfortunately will never go away, despite the fact that many people are tired of it. They've got too much going on at the same time, and in typical NHL fashion, they market it poorly. Because I mean, yeah, I guess there was the build up to the Winter Classic. Um, but I mean, other than that, there really wasn't much hype around it. And I mean, when it's two teams that nobody cares about, it's like, of course, your viewership's gonna be in the shitter, But I would like to say lesson learned, but it is Gary Bettman and the NHL, so I mean, probably not. And I look forward to seeing Chicago win it again next year, even though they probably haven't picked any teams yet.
Okay, hold on. There's a definitive way to fix this, and I think we all know. I think we all know what two teams actually need to be at the Winter Classic: Montreal and Toronto, hands down. Let me explain why. You have the two oldest and two winningest franchises in NHL history playing against each other. It is one of the most classic rivalries of all North American sports. Of course, you have your New York, Boston, New York, LA. You have Boston and New York. Or no, sorry, let me rephrase that. You have Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. You have in Canada, you have Montreal and Quebec, Toronto and Ottawa. But how did most of these rivalries start? Simple. Toronto and Montreal. Two of the biggest storied organizations in professional sports, right then and there. One is French, the other is English. You cannot write a better goddamn story than that. I kid you not when I say this. This Winter Classic would feed families, yet people are too stupid to realize that. And it's insane because it's like, how are you going to have a Winter Classic with goddamn Chicago? Don't get me wrong, I love Chicago, but I am so fatigued with seeing a Blackhawks jersey in every single Winter Classic that it's basically making me want to. It's basically make me want to scrape my forehead against a cheese grater for 4 hours a day until New Year's Day. Say the season starts in October, and I'm basically scraping. I'm basically scraping bone at this point for 2 months. Excuse my language, but this is openly ridiculous. The fact that, say, Florida is getting a Winter Classic next year. Florida, of all teams, you're playing in the dead. You're playing in the dead heat of the Florida swamp, and you're giving them a quote unquote outdoor hockey game. Make it make sense, and that made no sense. You cannot keep doing this. You cannot keep giving fodder teams a chance to do something unless you put them in a climate that actually works for them. Now, mind you, this is kind of similar to the whole argument of, every team should have an outdoor game, kind of similar to the same argument of how every NBA team should have a Christmas Day game. Again, Florida is a defending Stanley Cup champion. Yes, they do deserve one. However, why didn't you just give them one, say, within the same year, or give them an outdoor game or a marquee outdoor game within the same time frame? Not 2 years later when you decided okay, let me just give the cup to somebody else and then bloody give Florida what they deserve, which is an outdoor hockey jersey just for us to make some money. That still makes no sense to me. Easiest way to fix this: you have Toronto and Montreal in one, New York and Boston in another, and steer clear of the Detroit-Chicago matchup. Give us Detroit-St. Louis. Give us Detroit-Colorado. That was a massive rivalry in itself. You can reignite that there, like in that way, shape, and form. You can have Dallas and St. Louis. You can have do a round robin with like the 3 California teams and the 3 New York teams, between the Islanders, the Jets, and the Devils. Or no, sorry, the Islanders, the Rangers, and the Devils. Excuse me, and the Sharks, Ducks, and Kings. That was cool in itself about 5 years ago, but nobody seems to think about that. Again, I'm just a black man who's trying to make some sense here, but like at the same point in time, it's like, if anybody from the NHL is absolutely listening, like, you need to stop putting shitty teams, or at least throwing another team to Chicago just because you want to refix their image, because you quote unquote feel bad for them for the whole Kyle Beach scandal. I'm sorry, like that's openly ridiculous. Fix up and do better in the situation. What better way to start than actually, like you guys said, make it a premier day where it's like it's not interfering with any, say, college bowl games. It's not interfering with, like, say, any other day, like, say, if it's a Sunday, then like make sure there's no NFL games playing that day. Make sure there's no NBA games playing that day, because like everyone's looking for premier television space and ad space on a day where everybody's either hungover or want to just like literally just sleep, you know. So why not put it on a day where everybody can actually watch, for one, and two, give us 2 teams that actually we actually want to watch.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been rambling for a bit. Please go ahead.
No worries. I've seen them put more effort into Hockey Day in Canada than they do into these outdoor games. And I completely agree with Dave, where it's like, just give the fans what they want. Like, this isn't rocket science. Like, stop picking teams that nobody cares about. Like, if you think this is the way that you're growing a fan base and getting viewers, you're doing the exact opposite. Because, I mean, like, from young to old, you know, you're looking at this and it's like, and you see the teams that are picked and it's like, again? I'm not watching this. Like, I've seen this last year, the year before, and 2 years prior. I've seen it. You know, if they wanted more eyes, they want to make money, do what Dave said. Original 6 matchups. Do you know, while it still seems kind of odd, you know, whatever, do regional matchups. That should work and make it interesting. And, you know, like what I kind of said to Avry before we hit record, make it worth something. Like, if you're gonna do like have the 2 teams in like the premier event, make it worth something. You know, make it like, if you're, and I guess kind of the same thing with the 4 Nations Classic. Make it worth something. You know, make it worth something for the players. Make it worth something for the people watching. I mean, the NBA's done, and they've done that with their in-season tournament, which people are still trying to feel their way around a little bit. But I mean, like, they found a way to make their product more interesting. You know, like, their eyes are on it. People are talking about it, whether, you know, I would say probably more in a positive light, because they've done it for 2 years now and people are starting to figure it out a little more. But I mean, hockey is a simple sport. And I mean, like, with so many teams, there's so many options to choose from. It almost feels like it's willful blindness at this point.
I have to agree with that.
Yeah, it is. This shouldn't be it. This shouldn't be a thing that you overthink. The Winter Classic, Heritage Classic, Stadium Series, the formulas right now are pretty simple. I mean, great example is we have you got an outdoor game coming up where you're playing it in Ohio State Stadium. You're doing things that aren't that complex, and you're making it really, really complex. And you mentioned rivalries, games people want to see, understand how when you win a classic, you're trying to get ratings, you're trying to get eyeballs. I get that, but people don't want to watch poor hockey. People don't want to watch games that aren't fun. And I know you don't want to get rivalries, but I'd rather watch the name brand players. And yes, Chicago has Connor Bedard, but the flash isn't there outside of him or even on the St. Louis side of things. Like, I want to see more of these games where you're getting involved. Like you guys mentioned, the Torontos. I want to see Edmonton, Colorado, even San Jose with Backlund Celebrini. He should be in an outdoor game again eventually soon. You've got to start marketing your team, your players. I mean, the Cup final. Even though, yes, you had a Canadian team in the Cup final, ESPN did great numbers for Florida Edmonton because of the draw of not only the fact it was the 0-3 comeback, you had McDavid, Draisaitl, Kachuk, Barkov doing their thing. So really, the NHL once again is trying to play 4D chess, and somehow checkmates themselves. It's ridiculous. It really is, but
It genuinely is. And you know what? It sucks. It really sucks.
yeah,
But-
no. Go ahead, Dave.
But what I was going to say is this. If you guys remember back in 2019, or no, 2000, sorry, excuse me, 2018, where the Leafs and the Capitals had their Stadium Series game. And we all saw the jerseys for that tournament or for that outdoor game, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, you're playing you're playing at Annapolis, right? And like Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. Like, of course, that's where the U.S. Naval Academy is. Like, the jerseys were fire, and like honestly, even though I missed that game, like I was down to actually get my hands on a Leaf Stadium Series jersey because like the white on white with the blue stripes, like that was fire. That was fire in itself. Like, you don't have jerseys like that anymore. To tell you the honest to God truth, like the Blues Winter Classic jersey this year, terrible, absolutely terrible. Like a 4-year-old could have done better than that. And it's like these guys have really lost the plot when it comes to finding something that's not only marketable but also fashionable at this point. Like, what are you doing here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the what was it? The arenas jerseys that the Leafs had during their Heritage Classic against Buffalo in Hamilton. Like that was a great game for people to watch. And like it's small things like that actually gets people drawn into things. Where it's like it's very difficult to get someone from the south side of Chicago to perform for a bunch of people who barely know what seasoning is, yet say salt and pepper is the best seasoning for a piece of chicken. Like, the hell?
Oh my goodness! And you mentioned actually my last point on this, Dave. You mentioned the jerseys for like St. Louis. So alone, a lot of people were wondering why these jerseys so bland. The Blues jerseys were based off a concept from the '60s that was rejected. They didn't use for the original jerseys, and to me, that should have stayed rejected because even almost 60 years later, that is still very bland. And if you're gonna, and you know what? Don't get me wrong. The idea of wearing a rejected jersey is cool. But if you're gonna wear a rejected concept jersey that your team said no to years ago, make sure it's a radical one. Make sure it's one that actually makes you want to talk. Like, great example, the St. Louis Blues years ago in the 90s. You guys probably know the one I'm referring to. The 3 trumpet jerseys that Mike Keane said we're not wearing these. If you wanted to go with a theme of rejected concept, wear those. You should have worn those jerseys then.
No, I fully agree. Honestly, these jerseys were terrible. And you know what? Like, I don't know what else to say in this situation other than the fact that it's like whoever's either running the design process or running the marketing department, either A needs to be fired or B needs to be slapped really hard with a steel chair, like in the face. Like, this is ridiculous. Do better. Genuinely do better. And you know what? Like, I don't know who's getting the outdoor game next year, but like this is like something has to give because this whole system is terrible right now.
Yeah, it's a mess. And going from that game to our last part about Winter Classic, there was a thing that Jordan and myself mentioned off air, which oh boy, it was old men yelling at clouds. So on their podcast, Tim Peel and Jeremy Roenick on their podcast, decided to go get on air, and JR had a little JR got mad because before the game, they had a ceremony where players were greeting Chris Chelios, Denny Savard, and Roenick. And Roenick on his podcast was upset that Connor Bedard was one Blackhawks player per game who did not come and say hi to them. Now, my thing is, if you have an issue with someone not coming to say hi to you, especially a 19-year-old kid, I'm going to talk to him in private and say, hey, bud, this is what you should do next time, pay your respects, whatever. The fact that Roenick sat on this fact and waited until he got onto his podcast to blast Bedard, no matter what he wants to say about, I'm not here to insult the kid or come up behind the kid. Dude, you're a grown man. You're almost 60 years old. You know better than that to come on your podcast and try to get clicks coming for Connor Bedard, coming for a teenager. Be a man, be a grown-up, and text Bedard, call Bedard. You can get his number easily. Sure enough, they'll give you his number. I'm sure of it, they would. Don't wait until you get onto your podcast, talk about, this is Chicago hockey, this is how the Chicago hockey family works. Dude, you're a grown-up. Don't come on here trying to blast a teenager on your show. Grow up, dude. That's embarrassing.
Maybe somebody should have thrown a water bottle at him. Because, what is that? Your butt hurt over not getting a fist bump? Like, he's acting as if, like his wife or something disrespected him in a room or whatever the case is. This is just one of those scenarios I feel where it's like Jared feels he's been out of the spotlight for too long. Nobody's talking about him anymore. So let's just make this a thing so people can keep my name in their mouth, just so people, know who I am, have a reason to Google me kind of deal. But he's doing this all wrong. And like you said, if he really had that much of a problem, go talk to him. Go find out what actually happened. Maybe there's a reason why he didn't want to interact with you. There's an entire possibility he didn't see you. Or maybe because there was just too many people around and he didn't get a chance to get to everybody. He is, a face in Chicago now, so I'm sure his attention is demanded in every possible direction. Whereas with Roenick, he's just there kind of deal. But he's just being a big bitch. He just needs to stop crying about it. Whatever. It's a handshake. Like, get over it. Don't lose too much sleep.
So in other words, Roenick's being a baby back bitch because Bedard didn't say hi to him?
It's
what timeline are grown men going on as cussing about 19-year-olds who don't even come up to them and talk to them? In all seriousness, like you got two grown men, one who basically disgraced himself from hockey because he's a social media dumbass, and then basically trying to get himself back on TV all because he wanted to bone his coworker, and that didn't work. That didn't work out very well, and he basically got himself fired for it. Two grown men on a podcast talking about how they couldn't say hi to basically the future of the NHL. All because of some stupidity. Like, how does this make sense?
I just Googled the man's age. Jimmy Roenick. You're 54. 54 years old acting like
You're
this.
16.
Brother, you're that mad about at 50. Please smack me upside the head if I'm 54 and saying some NHL hotshot didn't shake my hand in some 30-ish years. Please smack me upside the head if I ever say such foolishness on a podcast in 30 years.
Right? The only thing foolish that we'll be saying is like, how much are we making in the millions and what are we spending it on? That's the type of foolishness we would like to be doing on this podcast. It's essentially 30 years now. Know what I mean?
That really irritated me. This man, he decided, nah, man, I'm not gonna go up to a door after the game. I'm not gonna, see if I got a contact and put me in touch with the kid. No, I'm gonna go on my podcast and vent on this kid for not kissing my rings. Like, what? Oh, brother, horny.
Right? It's like, I mean, like, you won't kiss the rings, but you'll be kissing my fist by the time it hits your face. Like, okay, that was too far.
But again, no matter how much Dave tries to control you out of pocket, it's like Bruce Banner. Yeah, when he turns to the Hulk, he tries to fight, turning into the Hulk, and Dave, Dave struggles to do it. Dave fights it back. He turns into until he turns into this Hulk variant in St. Lucian flag colors.
That's true. That's so true.
It's weird that Jeremy Roenick wants to be the one hollering about respect this and that, but like he's doing the exact opposite. Like he's being disrespectful by going on a podcast and talking about like a minor in the U.S. So yeah, it's a little weird to have an old man like that just going on about nonsense. Like Avery said, it's giving old man yelling at cloud vibes.
What's funny? It's funny the irony in Jimmy Roenick being the old man yelling at the young player, not giving him respect of all people, of all reps, of all players. He doesn't find that funny himself. Like he's the guy who's becoming the old man yells at clouds. How's some self-reflection on that, Jeremy? Please.
Like Jeremy Roenick is basically becoming the senile old man of the NHL. But
moving on. We'll just wrap things up here on the third intermission. So what have been your thoughts on the Leafs so far, guys? I know this team has not had a full year of Austin Matthews as he's been battling his injuries, and the Leafs are still trying to chug along. They're still a dogfight in the Atlantic Division with the Florida Panthers. So what have been your impressions of this team as they continue to play at times without Matthews in the lineup here?
I'll go first on this one. I've noticed that Toronto's starting to do significantly better when Matthews isn't in the lineup. That said, with him basically returning and being a contributing piece to the Leafs' current success, it's very hit and miss with how how to look at it. Because on one side, it's like Toronto can really play well, or Toronto's three core players can play very well without Matthews being in the lineup. And by that, I mean, like, say, Tavares, Nylander, and Marner. And we've seen glimpses of that where, like, Tavares is basically lighting up the lamp at least, like, three times a game. Nylander is just playing out of his mind. Mitch Marner is out here is shining like he's trying to get an NHL contract like he's playing for London right now. And you can't help but wonder. It's like, was Matthews like the piece that wasn't meshing well together with these guys? And that's saying that objectively. On the flip side, it's like you're down without your captain. You need someone to right the ship, and yet still you still have Tavares as basically your de facto second in command in this situation, and he has been helping Toronto figure its shit out, literally. And barring a couple bad losses against the Islanders and Winnipeg over the last couple weeks, um, Toronto's been playing some solid hockey. And you know what? Like, I guess now that we're officially at the halfway mark for the Leafs anyway, as they played 41 games, I'd say they're right where they need to be right now, regardless of whether Matthews was on the ice or off the ice. And I'd say it's only a matter of when, not if, but when Toronto finally turns up the heat and starts realizing its potential with how it could be basically the crown jewel of the Atlantic, which it's been dying to be for like the last 30 years. Or sorry, not 30 years, like say more like 25 years. Right now, Toronto's doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it needs to where it needs to be. Goaltending is a little shaky at best, with Anthony Stolarz going down, Joseph Wall playing masterfully right now. Matt Murray finally getting his legs under him, and Matt Murray has played 3 games since his return to the NHL, and he's been playing very well. Toronto's defense core has started to step up. Morgan Riley is being the two-way defenseman that we needed him to be. Jake McCabe, of course, obviously getting injured within the last 24 to 48 hours. Leafs extending Philip Myers recently. And Toronto's defense core is just starting to step up at many different aspects. And now, obviously, with Toronto playing with a great forward core as well, in Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Matthew Nyes, Nick Robertson, Max Domi. I can list names on and on and on for like the next 20 minutes, but then we'd run out of time, especially on this episode. So I'll cut it short by saying and reiterating what I said a little bit earlier. Toronto's playing like they're playing, or how they should be playing, and they are where they need to be right now. If, say, the Leafs can figure out their struggles and not get clapped early against good teams, like we could be seeing them like fully atop of the Atlantic with some leg room come the Four Nations face off. But that's just me.
Troy, what are your impressions so far? What have been your thoughts? Again, I'll swing you the same question to Dave. Just like thoughts on this team stepping up when Matthews hasn't been lined up fully this season here.
I think it's good that various guys have stepped up in his absence, particularly Bobby McMahon. He's done very well in terms of picking up the slack and he's just playing good, sound positional hockey. I'm curious to know what the insurance policy or like what the insurance adjuster goes through every night watching Chris Tanev play and is like, oh no, he blocked another shot. Oh no, he did it with his face this time. But I mean, it's nice to see that we have guys that are out there who are willing to put themselves on the line to not have the other team score. I wouldn't say our goaltending is shaky. I just think Berube just needs to have a little more confidence in his goaltenders. Because I believe Wall has won his last 4 starts, and they need to figure out like who's going to actually be the backup until Stillers is ready, because they're sending Murray down for Hildeby and the switching back and forth. Like, I understand. I guess somebody's gonna get claimed off of waivers, but I mean, like, they really got to figure out who's backing up who here. And I think that's probably the only part they really need to figure out. But other than that, so far I like what I see. There hasn't been huge stretches where they've been on losing streaks. Like I've mentioned in previous episodes, I have seen in-game adjustments compared to Sheldon Keith's time while he was here. Players are being asked to do specific things, and they're responding, which is good.
No, great points for both of you guys. I want to point out just now, time to say thing, the USA has won the World Junior Championships in overtime. Overtime decided by the USA. USA repeats as World Junior Champions, winning another gold medal, which they've done before in Canada. So, again, Hockey Canada, some things to think about, evaluate going into 2026's tournament in Minnesota next year, as all Canada can do is sit and watch as they finish the tournament without a medal, and the Americans winning gold on their home ice.
I want to say something real quick regarding that before we end this episode. Is that okay?
Yes. Go ahead.
Team Canada deserve to lose. Genuinely speaking. And here's why. You do not go into a tournament, do not practice after, say, a solid loss. And Dave Cameron has done this a number of times. You do not go into a tournament, do not practice and regroup after a terrible loss, like, say, to the Americans and the Latvians of all teams, and then expect to come out and try and win a medal. I don't know what Dave Cameron was thinking in this situation, but he does not deserve to literally touch another World Junior team at this point. I understand he was checked out, and I say that with no pun intended, as Czechia basically knocked out Canada back on Thursday. But he literally looked checked out the entire game.
Yeah.
And as a fan, I'm extremely angry. Not only with Hockey Canada's selection, but also with Hockey Canada's choice of coach. A lot of social media comments were going off saying, oh, the refs were doing their jobs, but like the refs were making bad calls. It's like, yeah, it was inconsistent left, right, and center, but stop bitching. Play a full 60 minutes. Don't play 10 minutes and then stand there with your dick in your hand expecting it to get rubbed by somebody else when you're the one holding it and thinking you could get something out of it. I'm sorry, but like, Team Canada played like shit. And I'm a Canadian hockey fan. Like, we played like shit the entire tournament. We should have been slapping certain teams. Like, for example, like when we beat the daylight out of Finland during on Boxing Day. Like, that was a great indicator that, like, okay, you know what? Maybe this team had the right selection. Then we get dummied by Latvia, a team that barely had any star power, and they basically locked them down. Like, now, of course, Latvia's goalie and Canada's goalie were basically standing on their heads the entire game. And you know what? Like, I gotta give my hat to them, but Canada was outplayed that entire game. The Germany game, like, it should not have been 3-2 at that point. Canada should have been basically destroying Germany. Instead, like, Canada was just playing as if like they hated to lose, and that's just quoting a Shorzy line. Like, these boys don't play to win; they just play to hate to lose, and that's essentially what this juniors team was doing. The New Year's game against the Americans, embarrassment. The quarterfinal game where like Canada was taking stupid penalties left, right, and center, embarrassment. The Latvia game, flat out embarrassment. And I'm sorry if I'm sounding like Sid Seixeiro in this situation, but it was a massive choke job on Canada's part.
Yeah.
Find a way to, and folks, I'm trying to keep my composure here when I say this, but I'm going to say this right now. Listener discretion is advised. Canada fucking played like shit, and they did not fucking deserve to actually be in the quarterfinals. Like I'm sorry. Like had they played Sweden, I would have loved to see Canada get destroyed in this situation. And this hurts my soul as a fan. Like, do fucking better. Do fucking better next year. You're in St. Paul, Minnesota, where it's basically the 50th year of the tournament. Find a way to get your shit together. Come up with a better selection process. Actually hold a training camp. Get a coach that actually gives worth some part of a damn. And find a way to actually win and bring gold home, especially from the Americans, because we have been bookended by them for years. The last time we beat the Americans in this tournament was what, 2000 and no, not even 2000, 1997? Maybe a little bit earlier than that? I don't know. Avery, you can quote me on that one. But this country's junior hockey program right now, or this men's junior hockey program right now, absolute travesty. Flat out. And I'm not saying that just because there were no black kids on the team. Like, it was an absolute travesty from top to bottom.
It's a thing in which, and Troy and myself, we mentioned it earlier, how, yeah, no, even though Canada, even though Canada is a team that's always going to be projected to medal, this doing things the exact same way has to change. There needs to be a changing of the guard when it comes to who picks these teams, who coaches. Great example right there. The Americans have been very progressive with the past few years here. And I will say it again. The next man up for an NHL coaching job soon enough will be David Carl. David Carl comes in from U of Denver, runs a great ship, gets the Americans to a gold medal game, is the defending national champion with U of Denver. That is a coach that gets young hockey, gets young talent, and his message hasn't been lost yet. Dave Cameron, like you mentioned, Dave, has been here 5 times, and it's clear that he's now mailing it in, coaching the World Junior team. And if you are mailing it in, then it's time to find somebody else new, be it in the NCAA level, be it the CHL, somebody else who is willing to take on this job and can get junior hockey, because it's clear Dave Cameron's time is gone, beyond gone.
I fully agree with that. Like, I don't know, maybe you get Jason Payne from the ECHL to actually come coach Team Canada at this point, because we need some new blood in this situation.
We do.
It is openly embarrassing to see this, and I find it mind-boggling that Canada has not found a way to basically embarrass the Americans since 1997 in a gold medal game at this tournament. The fact that you have other countries now stepping up, for example, Slovakia, you have Sweden. Sweden has always been a powerhouse. Finland has always been a powerhouse. The fact that Russia's not even here, like, other countries have stepped up now too, like Czechia and Slovakia. And now, again, I hate dragging their name into the mud like this, but it's whatever at this point. Latvia has found a way to step up. You have taken out one of the most perennially strongest hockey nations in the world. Do not take that lightly. The fact that Latvia made the quarterfinals and got second in the group over the Canadian. No, they didn't get second in the group this year, did they?
No, but either way, the fact that they had a chance, the fact that they had that game against Sweden, which was a one-goal game late, but they were pressing on the Swedes, shows again how much Latvia's hockey development has improved, and full credit to friend of the show Ted Nolan for a few years helping out Latvia's hockey program and helping them at various levels get better and improve. And you see it now. Latvia's getting better. Even saw competitive play, even though Kazakhstan had games where yes they were blown out. You still saw progress from Kazakhstan, and these nations that 15, 20, 25 years people said, oh, why are they here? They're a joke. These are nations that are now winning big games, and soon enough, a Latvia, a Slovakia, a Germany will be playing for a gold medal in World Juniors. That's coming. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That is coming eventually.
I think you also have to look at, say, some of the other countries in other divisions too, because it's like what Denmark's finding their way through.
Yeah, Austria.
Apparently, Japan won Division One, won their Division One tournament, and now they're getting promoted to the level of the pyramid before the top flight, and it's like, what's going to happen when you say you have other non-traditional hockey nations like Japan, Great Britain, China, Ukraine, Italy, or even a Norway or even a Slovenia come in and knock off one of the best countries in the program. And it's like, what does Hockey Canada do then, especially for the world men under 20s?
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, these small nations are getting, and these small nations, years ago, of course, you have to have their local coaches who help out local pro coaches, but now these small nations are getting, they're investing money in bringing in ex-NHL coaches, ex-NHL players to come and build up their programs. So they're being taught NHL systems, NHL standards. They're being taught by the best players. That's the thing. That's a smart thing, is going out and saying, hey, this NHL coach, he's out of work. Come and coach Team Japan. Come coach Slovenia. Come coach France. Come coach, China. You're getting these NHL names who want to work, who want to improve hockey. They're coaching smaller nations. That's what we could call that talking Canada. These smaller nations are being taught by NHL minds, and their progression will be rapid very soon.
Hold up, Troy. I want to hear your thoughts on this real quick before we end, because I know you did want to. I know you guys talked about this earlier. If he's still there.
Sorry, what's the question?
No, just hang on. Yes. Yeah. I see you got to jump out for a sec. Oh, I see Troy's got to jump out. Troy's going to leave. But before I let you go, Troy, I'll ask you, what are your thoughts on these small nations progressing? Because I've been saying how these small nations are getting NHL development for NHL coaches who are out of work, who are saying, I'll help you out. I'll help coach Latvia or Japan or China to help them improve.
I think it's great. It finally makes the tournaments more interesting. Just seeing the same 3 or 4 teams. Finally, everybody's good. And I think that's what you wanted to achieve this entire time while the powerhouses were where they were. You wanted to develop these other nations to get to this point, and this is where we're at. So, just reap the rewards while you still can.
Yeah. No, exactly. I know you got to head out, Troy, so we'll wrap up soon here.
I don't know what to say at this rate. The fact that the Americans are now basically on par with, say, how Team Canada is running their program right now. It's scary to see a country this strong like the Americans. They've won what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 titles. No, sorry, 7 titles since 2004. Seven championships, and 4 of them have come against the Canadians.
Yeah.
It is downright frightening to see that the Americans are now like basically accelerating at a rate that like that's like say 30 years ago. And if you were to tell any Canadian hockey fan like back in time, like or sorry, like in the future, the Americans will actually beat the living daylight out of Team Canada, they'd
Mm.
probably be like, you're either drunk or really stupid.
And I said it before with Troy, Dave, but full credit to what the program they have with the NTDP program, in which they have that centralized program in which they built up their U18 teams, the U17 teams, the World Junior teams, and I mentioned beforehand how you've got the U.S. junior team that plays in a league, that plays in the USHL and is together, so they can learn how to play as a team, as opposed to just being 23 random dudes in large part who come together for a 2 week tournament. I think that's a major thing. I said to Troy is that you're never going to get the CHL all coming together and saying, listen, we should put in a Team Canada that plays in OHL or that plays in Dub or that plays in the Q, because all these different league owners are going to say, no, screw that. I'm not going to let a Team Canada take all the good talent. I said before, Troy, you're going to tell Dale Hunter in London you can't have your top players? No. Hunter brothers are going to tell you go screw yourself.
I'm sorry, but at this rate right now, I don't think it's an option you need to overlook. Because I'm telling you from now, like say if Canada gets slapped one more time at the World Juniors, I'm sorry. I'm making sure I find a way to apply and being like, listen, all of you dumbasses need to stop bickering and actually realize that hey, we're getting beat by some of the best by some of the other world's best. And if we're not stepping up our game, what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah. No, your point is your point is entirely true in that. But we are just in CHL. We are so crabs in the bucket mentality in terms of I'm going to get mine, and we don't want anybody else to. It's all about I'm going to get mine. Screw the rest of y'all. It's here for my team and my franchise. The collectivism isn't there, which it's going to hurt this team and it's going to hurt the future because I understand. You want to win your thing. You want to be the top team in the CHL. You want to this and that. But at what point does the collective thinking not win out when it comes to trying to develop? We talk about on Canada. What's the issue? What's the problem? Like, the USA playing in the USHL is a brilliant idea, but we got 60 CHL teams, Dave, and 60 minds who want to think about themselves, which has to change someday.
That someday better be soon. I'm not joking. That someday better be soon, because I'm not trying to be sitting here and watching another American flag go up on Canadian soil.
No, no one else wants that. No one else, but it is a thing in which you got 1 year to figure this out because you want to return the favor and win in St. Paul. You don't want to see another year of the Americans celebrating and going for a three-peat.
They need to start playing from now. I'm not joking when I say this. Like, I'm not saying this to be threatening. I'm not saying
No.
this to be. I'm saying this to be realistic here. Canada needs to start figuring it out from now. Because if you want to A, get back on the podium, and B, find a way to take care of a team that is basically handing your ass grilled to perfection with some HP sauce, especially in your own yad. I'm sorry, but two-twos, you need to figure your shit out now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I'm the president of Hockey Canada right now, who happens to be a very good friend of ours, slap some sense into somebody and say, hey, we need to figure out this World Men's Under 20s program immediately.
Yeah.
Because if we don't figure it out, like, we're gonna get left behind.
Yeah. And even if it's just for 1 year, even if it's just for 1 year, there's a Team Canada that either the traveling team that plays against other CHL teams, or they play a full year in one of the CHL leagues. Pick one. They can either play in the Dub, the Q, or the OHL just for 1 year. That would make a hell of a lot of difference, I think.
I feel like the Ontario Hockey League would be the best place to start, especially in that situation, because it's like what? You have some of the most prolific and strongest scorers within Canadian hockey, within the Ontario Hockey League. And two of those teams happen to come from the States. Then, of course, up next, it's like you have the QMJHL and the WAHL, the WHL respectively. Right? I mean, like, even though all three are basically on even par with one another, and like you have a little bit more bias with, like, say, being out west. Like, I can arguably tell you that, like, there are a lot more stronger teams in Ontario than a lot of people realize, or in the Ontario Hockey League than a lot of people realize.
Yeah, no, like, go ahead.
And unfortunately, it's like the Western Hockey League has like BC, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and I believe a team from Manitoba.
Manitoba was there, yeah. For Brandon, yeah.
And then the QMJHL basically has everybody else, which is like Newfoundland, New Brunswick, PEI, Quebec.
Yeah, I mean,
ideally speaking, it's like Ontario's the only province that has its own league. And yet still we can't come up with a decent number of players that can actually significantly be strong enough to take down the Americans, take down the Swedes, take down the Finns, take down Czechia, or Switzerland at this rate. Again, this could be a whole episode that we can really draw, but I think we really do need to cut this short. So
so we'll wrap things up here on the third intermission and end of the month in January. So make sure you keep your eyes peeled towards end of January. We got an announcement coming end of the month that you're not going to want to miss for something we're going to be doing, but we can't tell you yet. But just know, end of January, keep your eyes and ears peeled for our social media content. We're going to drop at end of the month.
We got something for y'all.
All right, we're wrapping their intermission. Troy came by, Bossman Dave came by, out of the blue after lurking on this episode. Thank you all. Like Dave says, thank you all for letting us grace the space in between your head top. We're out until next week. Deuces, and make sure you drink your water.
Drink your water, mind your business. Stay warm.